Hello, this is Ian and this is Somerset News Network. I've got it working. After trial and error, we finally sorted it out. Got a cheap mic and stand, but it's working. Shh, don't tell anybody. Right, weekend news, lots going on. Looks like the Labour Party is in disarray. Nobody really knows what's going on. A prisoner who was a rapist from Epping that was in the Bell Hotel, they tell us he was accidentally released. Now let's hold on a minute. They released him yesterday at dinner time. They did not make it public until 7 o'clock. Meanwhile, there's a video on social media of a guy just out of prison in the town centre looking for directions. And it's him. Now, did they not come clean until he was found? Were they just going to let him out and hope for the best? Because that's what it looks like to me. They're saying it was a clerical error. It was a mistake. Do you believe that? If they haven't got systems in place that keep basically dangerous criminals that rape girls behind bars to keep us safe, or the girls safe, I should say, then what else are they doing? We know that some of the prison system's gone public. All they're interested in is the bottom line. They're not interested in looking after criminals. They do what they have to do and they tick boxes. I almost worked for the prison as a volunteer. Yeah. A friend of mine was a prison guard. And I had a couple of years out of the gun trade and I worked for a company in Avonmouth making car parts. And he said, "Oh, you're a bit of an engineer. You can work with wood and metal." I said, "Yeah." He said, "We need someone, a craftsman, who can work in the workshop and help the prisoners to help rehabilitate them." I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So we had a couple of chats. And then he said, "What do you do? What are you qualified in?" I said, "I'm a gunsmith." "Ah," he said, "there may be a problem." So he went back, he came back, he said, "The bosses won't let it. They can't have somebody who knows how to make guns in a prison." Anyway, there's a longer story than that, but that's the basic bones of it. So I almost ended up as a volunteer in the prison service, but because I make guns, that was the end of it. Anyway, now this guy it's not allegedly because he was found guilty. He raped a girl or tried to rape a girl. That's what all the demonstrations were outside of the Epping Bell Hotel. That's where the pink ladies come from. Because that's where Antifa was picked up by the police, bussed in to the demonstration to attack the police to make it look like the protesters. None of the protesters wore balaclavas or covered their faces. Only the Antifa guys did. Now, the question is, were they paid and were they organised by the police? I asked the question. I don't know the answer, but it looks like it. So that started all that demos off in the migrant hotels. You know, you can't import terrorists, murderers and rapists. The government's job is to protect the people. And they are failing. big time. The fundamental thing is to protect the border. The border should be safe, and they're coming over in boats in hundreds a day. And Starmer, he's just words. Oh, we're going to smash the gangs. Have they? They've had 14, 15 months now. Oh, they did, however, prosecute 4 guys that had a sailing boat that would go over and pick some up and bring them back to make a bit of money. But they weren't the traffickers. And as if it was going to stop it, it never did. They reckon the dinghies that they use are made in Turkey. And they all got life jackets on. Well, it turns out the Border Force take them off when they come here. They process them. They give them to a private company that houses them in the hotels. The rumour is that they get £270 a man. So it's not in their interest to stop it. It's more than likely in their interest to keep the trade going. Can you see what's happening in front of our very eyes? Are the government, with all these freebies they reckon they're having, are any of the freebies from the company that is looking after the prisoners after they've been processed? Pose the question. Other news. Rachel Reeves is thinking of hiring taxis. She went to the IMF last week. Why would the government go to the IMF? To borrow money. This is what Dennis Healy had to do. Are they borrowing more money from the IMF to stop this country going bankrupt? It's technically bankrupt now. Our national debt is the same as GDP, our yearly government income. It's unsustainable. So the only thing Rachel Reeves can do is sack civil servants, cut the budget, and hire taxis. So you're going to have less money, so you're not going to be able to buy things. So people that have got jobs aren't going to be able to do the jobs because you can't afford to pay for it. Therefore, the economy goes down. It's basic economy. But it's just so basic, it's just unbelievable. You lower taxes, give people more money, they then spend it. They spend it in the pubs, they spend it on meals out, they spend it on repairing their homes, new kitchens. They're even advertising now that if you got kitchens with bad doors and that they'll just replace the doors. So they don't have to do the carcass of the kitchen. Because people can't afford new kitchens. Because they haven't got the money. Can't you see what's happening? Now, I keep on about my finances. I have a pension of just over £800 a month from the government. Because I'm self-employed, they take that off of the tax allowance. So where my tax allowance was 12,000, it's only now 200, or 2,000 I should say. So I can only earn £2,000 before I start paying tax. I paid £700 tax last year. So that means I made £3,700 profit last year, which is nothing. I'm disabled. I'm in a wheelchair. I work off a seat. I got a swing office seat that I work on. I've lowered my bench so I can work. And I can only work small hours, part-time. But I make things, that's what I do. My hands are okay. I just find it hard to walk. I've got osteoarthritis in both hips. So I can't do the jobs I used to do, but I know what jobs I can do on my new bench. I've lowered my bench down, I can work off a seat. But that technically now means that I'm paying tax on my pension. But that £800 goes in to my private account, a joint account with my wife, and that then pays for the household bills, or my share of the household bills. I pay for the water, the electric, and the food. But now I'm having to put my private pension, it's only a small one that I had when I was in the civil service, and it's £240 a month. That goes into that account now. That was my pocket money. I was using that to go shooting and to go fishing. So I've had to cut back on what I can do. Now, if everybody else is like this and using the money they used to do their hobbies, or maybe playing golf, playing cricket, playing tennis, or whatever, if they're cutting back because they haven't got the money, society suffers. Being able to do recreation and sport helps society. All this government wants to do is tax and spend. Standard labour. Happened under Harold Wilson. Happened under Callaghan. But the Tories aren't any better. Maggie tried to fix it. I think Denis Lawson was the last good Chancellor we had. He understood it. He tried to cut back taxes. Means that we spent more. And if we put money, VAT, on goods like they did, because we were in the EU, then that's where the tax revenue comes from. But if we ain't spending money, the government ain't getting the VAT. So they then got to find other ways of taxing you. They might put your tax on your house, your council tax up, so the government then doesn't have to give the councils so much money. They'll put maybe tax up from 20% to 22% on your wages. Put higher tax bracket, which is now 40%, maybe go up to 45%. Do you see how this works? And they're even talking about taxing your savings. Even though you've had the money in your wages and paid the tax on the money, if you've got over £10,000 in your bank, Rachel Reeves thinks he can nick some of it. And there's talk of a 10% tariff on saved money that you've got in the bank. I got a little bit of money in the bank. I've got over £10,000 in one bank. The other one's looking a bit poor. But that's my rainy day money. Fix the roof, fix whatever needs to be done here. We've done the fence between me and next door because that broke, which meant I had the money. But although I got over £10,000, Rachel Reeves had her way, I might only have £8,000 next week. You can't do this to people. I'm 68. I've worked all my life. I paid taxes all my life. And now I'm being shafted by the tyranny of a Labour government. And I mean tyranny. We had problems with King John in 1215. The barons met at Runnymede and forced King John to sign the Magna Carta for our rights and freedoms. It was said to have been written under duress. The Pope repealed it. We didn't. The Pope did. So in 1216, they rewrote the Magna Carta in 1216, and nobody talks about it. That's the basics of our basic law and our rights. Right to a fair trial. Habeas corpus. It's all in there. Now, 1688, we had the tyranny of James II. He wouldn't let Protestants take government positions. You had to be a Catholic. The country was turned into a Catholic country. Oh, you know, the elites in London, the barons and the well-to-dos, the elite, asked his daughter Mary to be queen with her husband that was the Prince of Orange. They were in hiding in Holland, along with John Locke. John Locke was their teacher. Prince of Orange came over and landed in Brixham. They went up what is now the 303, went into London. Before they got to London, James II upped it. Not a shot was fired. That's why it's called the Glorious Revolution. And when they took over, Mary came back and John Locke. And the scholars wrote the Declaration of Rights, which was then turned into an Act of Parliament, which was the Bill of Rights, 1689. Now, some people say 1688, some people say 1689, and that's because of the calendar at the time. The calendar didn't run from Christmas to Christmas, it ran from Easter to Easter, and that's where there's the confusion there. But I say 1689. Now, we have a Labour government. We have the tyranny of this Labour government. And does anybody believe a word Starmer tells you? He's gonna smash the gangs, he told us. You know, every time he's gonna stop the boats. Have you seen it happen? We've now got a Home Secretary who is a Muslim. I think it's a conflict of interest. I think it's going to cause real trouble. And that worries me. Anyway, that's my weekend rant. And yeah, I know I've said it all before. But I'm trying to get you to understand that history is repeating itself. And to know where we're going, as they say, you've got to know where we've been. Anyway, Ian, Somerset News Network. Bye for now.